Well, thank you everyone for being here. To get started, Dave is going to come up and present some statewide results, so a high-level look at what you can expect to see from our study. So, Dave, should be working.
Thank you.
Yeah. Come on.
Thank you, Javier. All right. When I was a kid, my dad was a college professor, and so we had all summer, we traveled a lot, and I became a big fan of travel. And I'll tell you all, what my first enduring travel memory was here in Oregon. Dad packed us all up in the VW van, and we came out here, and I remember we were camping by some beautiful river, and I was probably 7 years old, 1970, and a bunch of kids were swimming in the river, and they caught a salmon. And by hand, I don't know how the heck they did it, but as a young boy, I thought that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen, coming from Iowa, where everything is lame. And I'll never forget that. And I've always held in my mind that Oregon was a place of adventure and beauty and fun. And it's really great to have a chance to do this study with you and to share these findings of what you all, or your people here, think about the tourism industry. So let's go through what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to give you a quick research overview. We'll look at how we did this research, and so you'll know what I'm showing you. We're going to talk about how people in Oregon think about life here, a little bit about how they feel about employment in the tourism industry, their sentiment towards tourism, and then we're going to talk about industry action. And what I mean by that is, what do they think you should be doing as tourism industry leaders? And then real quickly, I'm going to go through a little bit on the diversity of people here and give you some how they differ from others, and maybe hopefully focus your marketing a little bit in your messaging around that. So let's start with the research overview. Basically, what we wanted to do is to develop a really deep understanding of how people in this state feel about tourism. What they think about it, how much do they value it, do they see the value it brings to their lives, and how does it impact their quality of life? And having done research for many, many destinations for many years, quality of life is always something that's interested me a lot, because we hope that tourism adds to the quality of life of the people who live there, right? And when you do a study, I'll just tell you something I've noticed, and talk to people about how they define quality of life. Everyone's different, right? But in general, you're going to find three things that are really important. First of all is economic vitality. Second of all is safety. And those are really the two big ones. They want a safe place to live and one where they can work. And then they want a cost of living that's affordable. Those will be the big three always. Then everything else, culture, all these other things fall down below. And I wanted to bring that up because I think it's important as we go through this. You'll see some things that matter. We have 6,800 people we talked to in our survey. We did this through a couple of ways. We went out to what we call a panel provider, which are people that have huge millions of people who can take surveys. And we talked to people in Oregon that. We bought some lists of residents randomly and sent email invitations to them to take the survey. And then we had some partner-owned audience work where people put invitations, for example, in their newsletter or on their social media to say, hey, if you're an Oregon resident, please take our survey. 6,800 is a huge sample. And when you do a sampling plan like this, you're going to find it doesn't always match with the state's geography and population. So the sample looks something like this by region. So we went ahead and we reweighted it, which is a little trick that researchers do to bring things back into balance. So that's what you're looking at here. And a quick look at the people in the survey, so you'll understand this sample I'm talking about. The average age was 50 years old. The 63% were employed. Usually about 18% in a survey is going to be retired, the rest some other status. 88,000 in average annual household income. 27% have kids. 18% are Black, Indigenous, or people of color. 17% with accessibility issues in their family, and 12% LGBTQ+. So kind of a nice overall look at the people we're talking to, well balanced throughout the state. And let's talk about the results now. Let's talk about life in Oregon. The first thing we noticed when we look at the data is that you Oregonians have a lot of pride in this place and living here. couple quick stats to show that. When we ask their agreement from I strongly agree to I strongly disagree, I consider myself an Oregonian, 77% say yes. I'm proud to live in Oregon, 71%. And I feel a personal responsibility to represent Oregon well, 70%. So clearly, people in this state feel proud of their place. How does that compare to other states? Well, we've done this type work for a variety of states. Some are willing to share, others are not. But I have 2 points here I'm going to share with you throughout this presentation to kind of help you understand where you all stand compared to other states. And I'm going to give you 3 destinations. I'm not going to give you the names of the other 2. One is what we call the outdoor focus state. I'll leave you guessing on this one. It's another western state with very similar attributes to you. Lots of mountains, lots of beautiful open space, not a lot of big city life, not heavily urbanized at all. And the second one is one of the top 3 states in the country for visitation. And it's a state with lots of big cities, lots of travel for various different reasons. And what we see here, with proud to live in this state, the other state was a little bit higher than you guys, and the big state a little bit lower. So you kind of fall right in the middle there. Feeling personally responsible to represent your state well, you see Oregonians are exactly equal to the other outdoor focused state for comparison there. So you see right in there. So pride is strong. Clearly, Oregonians understand and feel that your outdoor assets are your most valuable thing. When we ask Oregon has easy access to outdoor and green spaces, 91% agree with that statement. Having been here a lot, it's kind of hard to imagine what that other 9% thinks, but anyway, it's a survey. Top reasons for living in Oregon were landscapes and natural features, proximity to friends and family, climate and weather, and summer recreational activities. So again, re-emphasizing that point that people live here because of these great assets you do have. Moving on to quality of life concerns. Now this is interesting. This is where it becomes not quite as positive. I have to have my little cheat sheet with a few numbers here, so forgive me. We ask about the quality of life. Is it better now than it was 1 year ago? 34% say yes. That's right around the national norm when we ask this in our tracking surveys, not too different. And only about 10% actually are on that other end where they feel it's gotten worse. So by almost 3-to-1 ratio, people are feeling that the quality of life here has improved this last year. Has many jobs available at all skills and income levels. 40% feel that Oregon is well described that way. 25% disagree with that. The rest are in the middle. So you're definitely slanting towards the positive there. The cost of living is affordable. Now this one I almost feel it's unfair to ask because right now, nationally, when you talk to leisure travelers, the top thing on their mind is the cost of travel, the cost of living, because we've had this enormous inflation in the post-pandemic period that's causing a lot of anxiety with people. So 24% say the cost of living is affordable here. They agree with that statement. Anybody want to guess what the other side, the disagree, is? 53, so about 2-to-1 the other way. So people in Oregon are feeling the pinch for sure. Oregon has a variety of housing available at all income levels. This one was fascinating to me, coming from San Francisco, where a closet costs you $5,000 to rent. 16% feel that this is an accurate description of Oregon. Now, 63% disagree with this statement. So clearly the housing issue is on people's minds. And let's look at these 3 states again here. Easy access to outdoors, you're at the top. But on the other 3, you can see you're down below quite a ways by housing is available. About half of the number of people in Oregon say that positive thing exists around housing than in the biggest state here in the mix. So I really want you to pay attention to these 2 on the right, that you're falling a little behind on living is affordable and housing is available by quite a ways, because I'm going to come back to this when we talk about satisfaction with working in the tourism industry, because I believe there's a close link between the 2. We work to live, right? We work to have a home. We work to have things to do. And when you're feeling that pinch, it's kind of hard to be excited about your job. or feel satisfied with it. So just keep that in mind for me. Oregonians are optimistic. I knew I was going to mess that up. Are optimistic, though. We ask if they expect the quality of life to be better in the year ahead, and it goes up to 40% agreeing with that statement. 14% are on the other side that don't agree with it. So overall, people are feeling good about the upcoming year and the quality of life they'll experience. Tourism employment, well, interestingly, 47% of people in our survey said that they either work in the tourism industry or at some point in their career have worked in a job that supports tourism. So clearly it affects people's lives. And when we ask them, I'm going to skip through some of these quotes I have in here because we're a little short on time today. But I'll read this one to you because I think it's really well descriptive. And this is open-ended, something somebody wrote in the survey. From the hotel industry, catering industry, entertainment industry, transportation industry, all aspects of tourism need a large number of human resources to support it, which provides local residents with a wealth of employment options. So I'm going to move on through these just to save a little time. They'll be here for you if you want them. So second point under tourism employment, definitely a year-round thing in many cases. We can see that 74% of our survey, working people in the survey, are employed full-time, year-round. And this quote I thought was particularly interesting. Because of tourism, many of the people in my town are employed continually every year. Since we have tourists year-round, our community relies on tourism, and without it, our economy would break. We wouldn't have jobs or hobbies. Okay. All right. And finally, in this section, and I asked you to pay attention to those stats for this, employment satisfaction in tourism definitely has some room to grow here in Oregon. We asked if they were satisfied with working in Oregon's tourism industry, and I want you to understand what this 38% is. 38% on a 10-point scale from extremely satisfied to extremely unsatisfied. 38% were a 10, a 9, or an 8. What we consider a top 3 box score, a very high score. Keep in mind, above 5 or above, we're 84%. So it's not like you have some groundswell of unhappy people. But when we look at the other states, you can see this is the percent for the two states we've been talking about. The light blue on the right is the big state. The middle state is the other outdoor-focused state. You can see that satisfaction with jobs in tourism is suppressed compared to those states. I would suspect strongly that it's related to what we talked about with the cost of living and the ability to have a home that they want. Okay, let's talk about tourism perceptions, how they feel about the industry. And the way I'm going to present this data to you, I'm going to throw a lot of stats at you. But for each of these 4 points I'm going to show you, starting with economics, I'm going to show you some positive and some negative, and just leave it with you to kind of evaluate which outweighs which. So let's look at the positive for economic. Oregonians, by a large margin, feel that it's important. Tourism is important to the success of local businesses. 78% agree with that. 71% say it creates new amenities. 70% important to the local area economy. And 69% brings more employment opportunities to the state. So think about those numbers, 78 to 69, and I'm going to compare them to some of the negative statements we tested as well. Increased cost of living. 44% believe that tourism increases their cost of living. 33% think it brings unreliable employment, and 29% dependency on a few industries. So much lower. Definitely seems like from the economic point of view, Oregonians' positive feelings outweigh the negative ones you see here, none of which reach 50%. Moving on to environmental, the story changes a bit and it becomes more balanced on the pro and con. Let's look at the positive. Tourism helps to preserve historic sites, 60%. Improve physical appearance of the place, 51%. Improves park conditions, 50%. And is a source of funding, 47%. That's one you got to work on because we all know that tourism brings a great deal of money into our local governments, and people just aren't aware of it. They're aware that it influences the economic success of a place, but how that filters down to actual government, being able to fund the government is a little weaker. Looking at the negative side, increases litter or waste 61%, disrupts natural habitats 50%, increases noise level 48%, and creates environmental damage 47%. So you can see on the environmental side, things are a lot closer to parity between the good and bad. Cultural things, we all know tourism brings culture. I live in San Francisco, and we wouldn't have half the amazing restaurants we have without tourism, right? It just allows our life to be much richer. 75% encourages cultural activities, increases recreational entertainment options, demand for cultural events, and cultural exchange, 58%. And I just have to say to you all, too, one of the things I love most about what I do is I get to study a lot of tourism ads. And what Oregon has done is fabulous in terms of positioning itself with this unique point of differences of having this really cool culture and a place to live. It's really neat, and it's good to see that your people appreciate that. On the negative side, disturbing locals' way of life and commodifying local culture. Not to be jaded, but I don't know anything that's not commodified anymore. But about a third of Oregonians feel that it does commodify their local culture. Finally, social issues, and this is kind of a catch-all group. More media visibility, global recognition, improved destination image, and improved infrastructure. All more than 60% of Oregonians believe that tourism leads to this. On the negative, traffic and congestion and overcrowding should be no surprise there. Okay. The next part of this, we asked them what Oregon should do, basically. And I think this is really neat. I'm going to show you a variety of things that Oregon could do, from advertising itself to building new outdoor recreational facilities, and what you all think you should be up to. Okay, so let's look at the first set. 61% say Oregon should attract more visitors. 56% consider tourism a priority, and 52% become a major tourism destination. Compare that to the negative side of the scale, much higher. So overall, it appears that your community has a strong desire to promote tourism and to grow your tourism industry here. Let's look at the next set. We see here, encourage outdoor recreational development of outdoor recreation should be encouraged. 3 out of 4 Oregonians believe in that. 65% say that you should encourage tourism development. 58% establish more tourism facilities. So obviously a large proportion of people in the state, want this. And again, when we look at the negative side of the scale, much lower proportions of Oregonians are against this. And finally, this will make you all happy if you're in marketing. They believe you should advertise the state. Advertising in-state, 71% say that Oregon should be doing that. 2 out of 3, 66%, say that you should be advertising domestically, and a little bit lower, 60%, believe that you should be advertising internationally. You can see the negative pop up down there below. So clearly, groundswell of support for what Travel Oregon does, what you all do individually in promoting this great state. Okay. That's the end of our quick overview of the research, but I just want to share a couple things with you on the diversity of the people here. And what we did for these 3 groups, the Black, Indigenous, people of color, LGBTQ+, and people with disabilities here, we took a look at how they differed from others. So the one group and then anybody who was in the other group. And I just have some quick findings on each, which might help shape the way you think about communication strategies and things like that. So let's just go through it real quickly. With the Black, Indigenous, people of color group, they're more likely to stay in Oregon due to education and cost of living. Less likely to stay due to climate or the outdoors. Your eyes go bad when you get old, sorry. They're more positive about life in Oregon and their future outlook, more likely to own or work in a business that supports the tourism industry. They're more negative about the economic impacts of tourism, and much more likely to want Travel Oregon to prioritize DEI training in their funding. LGBTQI+, more likely to stay in Oregon due to political climate, education, and entertainment options. Much more positive about life in Oregon and their future outlook. They are more likely to work in the industry. More negative about the economic, environmental, and cultural impacts of tourism. And also much more likely to want the state to fund DEI education. Then finally, people with disabilities and their families or travel groups more likely to stay in Oregon due to familial responsibilities and the cost of living, more likely to own a business that serves tourism rather than work in one. They're more negative about the cultural and social impacts of tourism. And finally, much more likely to want the state to fund DEI efforts, so in education. So that's a quick overview of those three groups and a little look into how your compatriots here in the state feel about your great industry. And I'm just going to leave you three quick takeaways, what I'd like you to walk away with. I know I've thrown a lot of data at you. Clearly, the benefits of tourism currently outweigh the costs in the minds of Oregonians. But keep in mind that cost of living thing, the housing problems, the job problems, traffic and things like that are on their mind. And as the industry grows and more people are traveling, the long-term impacts of that could be significant. Clearly, Oregonians value the state's outdoor resources and they want to protect them. And most agree that media awareness is important and that advertising should be done for the state. So that is it, guys. I'm going to give it back to Javier. And there you go. Thank you.